Recording in progress.
Hello everyone, welcome to K-TechService with Attendant. Today I'll be showing you how to use some Docker commands and what Docker is all about. So by now, I guess you already have your server, either CentOS or Ubuntu set up. So I'm logging on my CentOS. If you have Ubuntu, that's fine. If you have CentOS, that's fine. So I'll go ahead and log in as root because I'm a regular user here. And it's asking for my password and I'll put my password. And once I put my password, I should log in. Oh, forgot my password. Okay, so I'm logging now as root. And I will clear my screen and we can get started with Docker. So what is this thing called Docker? So Docker is a containerization software that is used to package applications or code by developers with dependencies to production. What do I mean by this? You might be familiar with containers you have at home. You use it for storage mechanism. I want you to see Docker as a storage mechanism, as a packaging mechanism, because that is what it's all about. So the most important thing for you to know is that you can have a Docker image build. And what is a Docker image? A Docker image is just a read-only template, file that is used to create these Docker containers. I want you to know that these containers can be anything. It can be maybe your CentOS, Ubuntu, Windows, and just to name a few. You can write code and package it in the form of a container. But before us even understanding what those are all about, I want you to first of all start understanding some basic terminologies that are used in Docker. The first thing that you will need to know is once you are dealing with Docker, you need to first of all install the Docker engine. This is known as the Docker engine. And for you to install Docker on your CentOS, you use the yum install Docker. And for those using Ubuntu 2004, you do an apt get, then you do install Docker. This time around, you put it .io-y. That's how you install Docker on your Ubuntu. That will be installed. Since we are dealing with, I am dealing with CentOS, I'll go and install Docker with the yum install command. And once I install it, it is installed, and now it tells me that this package is already installed and ready to do. Now, once this is installed, the next thing you want to do is to start the daemon for Docker, because as we said on our previous recordings that daemons are processes that run on the background waiting to execute some tasks. And now the daemon for Docker is known as the Docker daemon. And for us to actually start this daemon, we use the command known as the systemctl start. This command is same for Ubuntu users, start Docker. And once this is started, the next thing we want to do is to check if this is actually started. And for us to check if this is actually started, we do a status, check if this is actually started. And here you see that it is started. The next thing we want to do is to enable it so that the next time we log into the system, it wouldn't tell us that Docker is inactive, that it will keep it up and running. Now we've enabled it and we are ready to go. And if I do Docker, if I do Docker, it gives me some information. If it tells you command not found, that means Docker is not installed. But once you install Docker, it should give you these commands, this information that you see here. And for us to actually check the version that I installed or you installed, you do a Docker version, and you should be able to see the version of Docker that you installed. Here I have Docker 1.3.1. I don't know what you should have, but that's fine. Any version is fine. So the next thing that we want to check here is to start understanding some basic terminology. So I've just typed Docker version is to check the version of Docker. And if I do a Docker image, this command is to use to check images in Docker. And I told you that a Docker image is a read-only template file that is used to create containers. And once I hit enter, I should be able to see all the images that I have. You might not see any because you haven't been using Docker, so you shouldn't have anything. I have been using this server to do some stuffs in Docker. That's why I have this. For your own case, you wouldn't see anything there. Nevertheless, don't worry, we'll be creating some of the images in our subsequent explanations. So, as I said, Docker images is a read-only template that is used to create Docker in Docker files. Now, what do I mean by read-only template? It means that this is already created. You see, this is Docker Ubuntu. This is Ubuntu image that is created, and you can only use it. You cannot actually see how that was created. Now, the next thing that we want to do is to check how to know if a container, a Docker container. Remember, I told you that a Docker is a container. So how do you actually check if that container, Docker container, is running? You do a Docker PS, and it will show you containers that are running. You would not have anything like I said, but nevertheless, we're going to show you some examples. Now, the next command that I'm going to run is how do you check exited containers? What do I mean by exited containers? Sometimes you can start a Docker image, then it exits. This will exit because it's sat idle. It had nothing to do, so it had to exit. Sometimes it happens to me, even for my CentOS server, I leave it unattended to, then before coming, it's already gone. It's already exited. So that's the meaning. So containers do always want to be working. Once it is idle, it exits itself. So if I do Docker PS -A and I hit enter, it should tell me some of the exited containers. You see it exited and it tells me how long this has exited. You will not see anything. You will not see anything on the end. All right. So now the next part of this is very interesting. I asked you guys to do to create an account in Docker Hub. Let me see. Where is my account? Okay. So this is my account in Docker Hub. So your account in Docker Hub should be like this. Don't bother if you don't see the stuffs. I just search them. That's why you see them. But you should have your account with your name. Once you have your account and your name shows you, then you are ready to go. Now, the next thing that I want you to do, if you have this account already set up, remember we did it on our previous class. So since you already have the account set up, the next thing that you want to do is to log in that account to this server so that you'll be able to integrate with that Docker Hub. So if you do a Docker login, this enables you to log into that Docker Hub registry. Remember, I told you that it's a registry that we use to store our Docker images, and we could always push and pull images from there. Now, if it's asking me the username, I already have a username. So for your case, it's showing my name, but for your case, you should put your username and hit enter. Once you hit enter, it should ask your password, and just go ahead and put your password and hit enter. And once I hit enter, it says succeeded. It says succeeded. You should see this, please. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to show you how wonderful, how great this stuff Docker is. So we have our Docker Hub registry. Let's say, for instance, we want to pull an Ubuntu machine, right? This is an Ubuntu machine. We have been building Ubuntu. And how do we actually pull this Ubuntu so that we see it here? How do we actually do that? What we need is this command, docker pull Ubuntu. So I will copy it from here, and I come here and I paste it here and I hit enter. Once I hit enter, it tells me that image is up to date. Now I've pulled it. It means I've taken it from that registry and I've put it here. Once I have it here, the next thing I want to do is to check if this Ubuntu check if this Ubuntu was actually pulled from that registry. And to check that, I would use a Docker images. And I hit enter, and you see it tells me Ubuntu. This is it. I have multiple ones, but this is the one. Now, because it is the latest one, when you just do a Docker pull Ubuntu without specifying what is the tag, what I mean the tag, I mean the version, it pulls the latest. So in our case, it pulls the latest. Now, it has actually pulled this image. Remember, this image is not running. This image was just pulled, and it's just a read-only template. For us to actually start this image, right? This image, what you need to do is to do a Docker run, and the container ID.
Recording in
So
progress.
once I do this, I hit enter. What's going on? It has actually started this container for me. Now, if I do a Docker PS, I will not see this container. These containers, they already existed from the ones I had. So when you do a Docker PS, you will not see anything. What do I mean by it already existed from the one I had? So let's see. So when I did the Docker PS, I had 3 containers. So they're the same 3 containers that I still have here. So the reason why it did not start this container is because in Docker, there are some there are ways that you should actually use in starting a container. You have a -T that stands for terminal. It means you want to start this container and you want it to log you in a terminal. And you have a -D. That means detach mode. It should be in a detached mode. That means it should not log you to this container. And a -I. That means the container should be interactive. Those are the 3 ways that you use in starting a container. So if I do a Docker, let's do it again. Docker run, then I do a -T, then I put that container again. Oh, I didn't put the container. Let's copy that container. To the container that we want to start with. It's a dash, so it's a dash here. Keep on forgetting. And you see that it has locked me in this container. This is a container. But if I don't want to be locked inside a container, I will just exit this container. So I will type exit to exit this container. This is taking longer than I expected. Yet my system is slow. Okay, let me do Control-C. Okay, I'm already out of the container. So you see, I'm logging as localhost. So let's check containers that we put by using Docker images. And let's say we want to start this again. Right. And then I'll do a Docker run. That this time around, I will not only put I.T, but I put I. It means it should be interactive. It should not just terminate anyhow. D means detach. It means it should not lock me in that in that container. Then I put the container ID. Remember, I copy it from here. And once I hit enter, oh, it's like I did some weird stuff. Docker. Okay, I was supposed to put what I want. So it's Docker run. And I hit enter. Now it has actually started the container. This is it. actually started a container, they never logged me in that container. So if I do a Docker PS, I should be able to see that container. This is up 10 seconds ago. This is the container. Now from here, I can now log into the container if I want to. But if I don't want to log into the container, let's say I just want to check something in the container, I will do a Docker exec -t -it. And I want to add etc wildcat release. What am I doing? And I want to do this in the bash environment. Okay, says respond. Okay, oh, I see what I did. You see Docker exec, then the container ID. That's what I was supposed to put. So where am I going to? So let's look for a container. Let's say this one. Okay. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's figure this out later. Let's say I want to Docker PS. Okay, let's say I want to log into this container. Right. I'll do a Docker attach. Then the container ID. The container ID that I want to attach to. Let's say which one. Or anyone, I've been leaving this alone. So that's the container that I want to log into. Why is it saying that no such container, right? Okay, I guess it's a way that I say, oh, it's correct. Okay. Okay, 1 minute. Let me figure out the problem. Recording. I think what the problem was. So if I do, let's do it again. Docker PS. So what happened is that I'm instead copying the image ID. That's not what we need. We need the container ID. So as I was saying, let's say if you want to execute some commands in this Docker, this Docker image that we put, and if you do a Docker exec, maybe do you put the ID. What I was doing was by mistakenly copying this one this way. This is the one that we need. Then let's say I want to check for the operating system. Of this Docker image, right? And I hit, let's say I want it to run in the bash shell. Now you see, it tells me that it sent OS 7. It sent OS 7. So fine. That's what I want. Now, if I do a Docker PS again, to check running containers, you need to make sure that this container is running. If not, you'll not be able to do this, what I'm doing. And I told you that actually we start a running container, I do a Docker run. And again, I want you to know that every command in Docker starts with Docker. Docker run, Docker this, Docker that. So that will help you to know anything that you want to know. Let's say I want to actually log in directly to this container. How do I do it? So I do a Docker attach, show you everything start with Docker. Then this ID number. I was copying the wrong ID number, that's why I was unable to log in. And I'm logging. How do you know you're logging to this container? Here. So let's go ahead and check, like to check some environmental variables. Remember we did some variables and I showed you how to create a variable. So these are some of these environmental variables that are stored here. You do print and to see the environmental variables. And how do you know if I do a PWD, it tells me where I am, LS, it tells me some, we're no longer in our other CentOS, but we're now logging here in a container. We're in a container now. Remember, we pull this container from here. So if you put Ubuntu, you should be able, I have multiple containers, that's why you say CentOS. So if you put on Ubuntu container, you should be able to see it here. When you do like a cat, etc, worker release, it should tell you the operating system. If it's Ubuntu, you should see it here. So very, very important. Very, very important. So to leave this, I just do exit, I type exit, and I'm out of the container. I'm out of the container. So very, very important. So please make sure you watch this video and do practice it, and before you come to the next class, so you will not be kind of blind when we start doing Docker stuff. So thank you and see you on my next video.